These episodes are intended for mature audiences. Viewer and listener discretion advised.
Myself, so I chose to move to a completely new city. I didn't know anyone. My parents were then in Belgium, so they weren't really in Norway at the time either. And COVID came, and we were isolated for like a year. And then it came back. My dad, when we moved to Belgium, that was like he was the one who applied to go to Shape, and I'm like, you can't be a teenage mom. Like, what are you doing? You know, like.
28-year-old teenage mom.
Yeah, like I'm 27. I can't be a teen mom. You know, I'm just.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Stories of a Dandelion. Today, I have a longtime friend who I haven't talked to in a very long time, Isolde. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's very nice to be here.
Welcome to the podcast. First question that I ask everybody is, if you're 18 right now, graduating from high school, what advice would you give yourself?
I've been thinking a lot about this. And for me, I would have told myself to just relax because things work themselves out in a way. Like you can plan whatever you want to. You can plan how you want your life to sort of fold out, but you just have to relax. Things will come into place the way they're supposed to be. Sorry for that.
No, you're good.
Yeah, I mean, basically just relax, you know, things will work out anyway. So you don't have to stress. You don't have to worry. You're good.
All right. That's good advice. That's good advice. So tell us, how did you come to be a military brat, you know, from the time you were born to who you are now and what's going on in life?
Yeah, so I've always been a military brat, being in the Norwegian army. Well, I mean, first off, I'm born in Norway. I'm Norwegian, so maybe that's a nice thing to start with.
Yeah.
So I grew up in Oslo, in Norway. And the first time we moved to Belgium I was 3 years old. So I went to a Belgian kindergarten. I went to the kindergarten at Shape, the military base where we lived. Mm-hmm. But yeah, my dad was in the Norwegian Air Force. My grandfather was in the Norwegian Air Force. They also lived in Belgium in the 80s at Shape. My grandfather worked there. So they had Pizza Bowl, they had, the bowling, they had everything at the same during the 80s as well. So, but for me, I mean, it was the first time I lived there and also my family. And I mean, for the first years, I don't remember much. I just remember going to a Belgian kindergarten. And then we moved back again to Oslo when I started first grade. We were there and also like when we lived there, it's when you're a military child as well, you move around a lot in Norway as well. And we lived in these military housings. So we moved around quite a lot in Norway as well. So I stayed at a school first grade for like 6 months, and then I changed schools because we got a new apartment. And then my parents bought a house after 1.5 years. So I moved to a different part of Oslo. So for like the first like 9 years, 10 years of my like prime years as a child, I moved around a lot, met a lot of new people, didn't really like settle in one place. Mm-hmm. And then we moved back again to Belgium when I was starting in the 4th grade. So we went to a Norwegian school, part-time British school at Shape as well. And then I decided to go to the American middle school. I could have stayed at the Norwegian school, but you know how it is. Everyone moves after a couple of years, and the military families usually stay from like 4 to 5 years. So all the Norwegians are always like changed out. And for me, it was getting a bit like, now I have the opportunity to get to meet new people and also get better with my language as well, because staying in like Belgium for 13 years, my French is really bad, but at least English is very good. So
yeah.
So sure. I had to like get something out of it, and I'm very happy that I also chose to sort of go to the American school, because it's very typical Norwegian to sort of stay in one place, stay with the same people, don't really, try to get to know other people. other
Mm-hmm.
cultures, other nationalities. So I'm very happy that I did that, because it gave me a lot of personality and a lot of experience as well that I've taken with me growing up.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah, I'm surprised to hear that because like you and your brother were like just so social. So to hear
yeah,
that Norwegians are typically like just like keep to themselves, I'm very surprised just because off of you guys and how friendly
yeah,
and loving and caring you guys were.
that's so nice. I don't know. Have you met a lot of Norwegians
Nah,
since?
not just
No.
yet.
No, because I saw this video and it was like saying all these things of like Norwegian people. And I mean, that was one of the after. So when we left Shape, when I was done, like I think I moved back to Norway for ninth grade or something. And that's when we moved back to not Oslo, where I was sort of born and raised, where all my friends were. We moved to a very
Hmm.
like suburban, um, not even a city or like a town. It was like a very small farming community.
Wow.
Everyone who lived there had basically like been there their whole lives, you know, like they had their childhood friends, their family were childhood friends. They had like everyone knew everyone. And for me that was
Hmm.
very difficult to come into like a totally new environment where people are so tight knit, while I'm used to, you know, like you said, like a very social person,
Yeah.
had lots of friends, loved to be social, loved to be sort of, I wasn't afraid to sort of stand out in the crowd either.
Yeah.
And then coming to this, like moving to this little town in the ninth grade, you're like super vulnerable with your hormones. And I sort of had to like compose myself. Like I had to change my personality because I couldn't be too much. It was very difficult to make friends, which was the
Hmm.
first for me. I'm not saying that I'm like, everyone loves me, I always make friends, but I'm usually used to having at least some friends. And it really did take like 6 or 7 months for me to make friends at my new school. And that was like a first time actually feeling excluded, don't feeling like I fit in. It
Hmm.
was a very different environment than what I was used to at Shape. So, so yeah, that was definitely a change, and that's
Yeah.
like how Norwegians are as well. You know, I don't have many Norwegian friends who, I mean, they're not like military kids. They're not army
Yeah.
brats or
So
military.
how'd you deal with that? How did you deal with those 6 or 7 months when you just kind of felt excluded and like didn't feel like you would make any friends when you were in high school?
I cried a lot.
Hmm.
Um, but I also, I mean, luckily I had um, some of the older guys who were going to my school were also like my neighbors, and they were at least very welcoming.
Hmm.
So what I did basically was, when none of the girls wanted to be my friends and no one in my class wanted to be my friend, I was this weird girl from Belgium with the
Hmm.
weird name. Like my name is quite rare in Norway as well.
Hmm.
So I just befriended the older guys, and they, you know, they came and picked me up before school. I took the bus with them. I played football with them during recess. And then when the other girls in my class saw, oh, she's, you know, friends with the older guys, they wanted to be my friend.
Hmm.
And
Wow.
I guess at that time, I'm very like, you know, I can understand people in a sense where like it might be weird or like it's different for them. I have an understanding that, okay, this is new for you guys. I'll forgive and forget, you know, it's fine. I
Yeah.
can have a lot of grace giving people a second chance. And I mean, I've messed up times as well, you know, and it's just important to sort of move on from that. So after that, I mean, it was fine when I went to high school and everything. I stayed in the same city, and, you know, just continued being a social person, and maybe was a bit more composed and not as
Calm down a little bit.
calmed down a little bit, which I think is, you know, it's a good thing.
Yeah. 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 That's good. So, do you feel that the new environment forced you to do that to like calm down? Do you feel like if you stayed at Shape, it kind of would have pushed into college and you would have had to figure it out later on in life?
I'm not sure. I think I would have been a very different person, to be honest, if I stayed at Shape. It's more of the thing where, I mean, you know how it is. I mean, Shape is sort of like this dystopian community
Yeah.
where you can't really talk about it to anyone because they don't really understand it. And also, like, it's quite a big difference between, like, I mean, because I was part of, you know, Club Beyond. I was very religious compared to like my family. I mean, it's not like a common thing for us to be that involved in, having Jesus in your lives and like
Mhm.
being a part of that community. It was very different for my family, and it's not something they were used to. And I think like worshiping and like having a faith is a very like strong tradition and belief for Americans and for a lot of
Mhm.
other nationalities. But for Norwegians, it's more like you have the Christian traditions, you have the religion traditions, and
Yeah.
when you're living in a different country, it's more like the community rather than actually your belief. So when I moved back to Norway, it was sort of I had a distance from religion, from God, and I
Mhm.
still do. It's not like it's I no longer have that very strong belief that I had when I was part of that community and Shape as well.
Yeah.
And I think in that sense, because I know that when I moved to Norway, I mean, I wanted to move to Utah. I wanted to,
Wow.
be a pastor's wife or something. I mean, that's what
Wow.
I wanted to do.
What made you like? How did you get into that and that crowd, that environment? Because like
I mean,
that's
it
like you said,
started
it's not usual.
very, yeah, I mean, it started very random, but I started with doing theater at Shape and I mean, that's why I started the American school as well, to be honest, because I met some Americans when I did the musicals and the theater at
Yeah.
Shape. And I guess, I mean, people were just like, yeah, we're going to Club Beyond after school on Tuesday. Do you want to join? And the community was so nice. And I think it's so important to like have when you're vulnerable and you don't have your family, it's so important to have I mean, you have your family, but you don't have like
Hmm.
your extended family, your like
Yeah.
people that you know. So the community in itself and like that coming together was very important, very nice. And it shaped me in a very like nice, I'm very happy for that experience. But yeah, I mean, that's how I got into it. And then when I moved back, there wasn't such a community. I mean, I didn't really have any friends who were religious, they were pushing the boundaries. And I noticed like feeling bad about myself because I wanted to push the boundaries, but I
Hmm.
felt bad doing it. And then all of a sudden I just turned and I was like, why am I feeling bad about these very like, I mean, sure, you try a cigarette, you try to drink, like,
Yeah.
it's not a big deal at all, but I was like beating myself down for it. And that's when I realized, wow, this is actually like taking over a bit of me. And when you don't really have other people around you that are religious, you just sort of, I don't know, you just change in a way.
Yeah. It's very hard to do it by yourself when you don't have a
Mhm.
community that can support you or somebody to talk to. So I understand.
Yeah. And also I think I mean, Americans are super outgoing. I love my American friends. I love the culture. I love how welcoming they are and how like, um, I don't know if you remember, but like my English wasn't very good actually when I went to the American school. I don't know if you thought about that.
No. No.
No.
I mean, like, obviously, of course, like, we know, like, your English isn't the best, but, like, over the years, like, trust and believe, like, it came through.
Yeah.
Like, you learned, and English it felt like it was your first language by the time, like, you left. So,
I'm very glad. No, because I met a friend actually who I think I knew her in like, yeah, I don't know, sixth grade or something. And
mhm.
when I was doing the theater and she was like, I don't remember your English being this good. Like what happened? Like how did, how did it change? So I think that that's the thing also where like, I felt like I was coming in, I mean, Shape, it's a very including society and like
Mhm.
people are very welcoming and outgoing. But I mean, that really shaped me. I mean, hanging out with you guys and being at the American school and being a part of that gave me a lot of confidence also, like that I've taken with me in the sense where, it's welcoming towards people and always giving people a chance and including them in things because it's very hard to be sort of the outsider looking in.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, Shape is, yeah, it was the weird place that nobody could make sense of, but it was an amazing place within itself, and it helped, I think, all of us just kind of step into who we were meant to be. So it's really good to hear that it was a good space for you as well. So after high school, what'd you do? Where'd you go? College, or did you go straight into the workforce?
Yeah, so I took a gap year after high school, and also my parents moved back again to Belgium. My dad got his like third time at Shape, so he worked there. But then my family moved to Waterloo,
Mm,
and that was really because Shape was, I mean, it wasn't a lot of people there, like the
yeah.
Norwegian families. It was a much smaller community than it used to be. So my family decided that they wanted to live in Waterloo because the Norwegian school was much bigger, and I had younger siblings who like wanted to go to a bigger school and everything. So I took a gap year, stayed there for a year with my parents, trying to learn French. I don't know, just having a blast. Then I decided. So I went to university. I took a bachelor and a master's degree
Okay.
in political science. So I moved back again to Norway to study comparative politics.
Hmm.
And then I did a master's in European studies in Trondheim, which is a bit like further north.
Okay.
So I would say that I'm a political scientist, and did internships as well during my degree. So I was in Belgium 2 times for internships.
Okay.
And I mean, my parents only moved back again to Norway like 3 years ago. And
Okay.
now I'm back working. I've been working for the last 3 years in a Norwegian like research company called Sintef. So I worked with managing EU projects. And now I work for the University of Bergen, where I took my bachelor degree
Hmm.
as an EU advisor. So I sort of working with the broader EU politics, and also since Norway is not a part of the EU, these like Norwegian institutions around in Brussels and around the world is very important. It's a very important area for us, and it's a lot of work, because we still have to get the information. We're still involved in a lot of the processes going on in Europe and with international collaboration. So, and now I'm working more like broadly with European politics in Norway. So I didn't continue the family tradition of going into the Norwegian army.
So, is it only for guys? Are guys required to go into the army, or is it just, or is it both, or just the guys?
Yeah, no, so they actually changed the rules. So for everyone born in 1997,
Hmm.
everyone could get called into these, like you have like a first test, sort of. You have the theory test, you have physical tests, and everyone gets called in that sort of fit the very like general script. You don't have any allergies, you don't have any serious illness.
Yeah.
You haven't been in prison. I mean, there's some like very like basic criteria that you have to follow. But so I was actually the first, since I'm born in 1997, I was one of
Hmm.
the first girls who actually participated in these like tests. And I was called in. I mean, I didn't want to, but I filled out this form, fit the criteria. But I did write, I'm not motivated to go in, because I wanted to go to college. I wanted to get my degree and start working, and not necessarily go into the military. But I was actually called in for like the tests for what's it called, like intelligence, like not secret services, but like
Oh, military intelligence.
military
Yeah.
intelligence. Yeah, because I mean, you're in the system. They saw like, okay, her grandfather was in the army, her dad was there,
Hmm.
she's been in Belgium. So I got called into this like special training. We were like 15 people, I mean, girls and guys. And I think in the Norwegian military, there's like 15,000 applicants maybe, and they only have like 5,000 spots a year. So the way it works in Norway is that you're part of that for like a year. You usually do it after high school. And then if, you want to continue, you don't have to continue after a year. You can choose to
Hmm.
leave. But if you like want to take course, because you can take courses, you can take your driver's license,
Okay.
you get sort of benefits. And if you do that, like if you accept and like want some of the benefits of being in the first year of military,
Hmm.
then you're obliged to I mean, it's mandatory then to have 3 years, I think you have to work in the
Okay.
military, and then you can leave. So I don't have the statistics of how many people actually stay after like the first year, but a lot of
Mhm.
people choose a career in the military. But for us, it's not how it is in the States. Like I know that you can get deployed and like sent out. And a lot of Americans who were at Shape also were like, they didn't really choose. I mean, like their family didn't choose to necessarily go to Shape, or
Yeah.
they were just, you have to go there, you have to go there. So my dad, when we moved to Belgium, that was like he was the one who applied to go to Shape. It's not
Okay.
like
Yeah.
that came as a surprise it came as a surprise for us because he was applying for the jobs without really telling us. So I
Hmm.
remember every time we were going back, especially like the second time, I remember we had just started the new school, and we had pizza, and me and my brother came back from school and we were like, oh, we're having pizza. That's nice. Like, why are we having pizza? And I remember like, oh, it's the last day of school. I didn't say bye to my friends because it was the first time I was like,
Mm.
yay, I'm coming back, see you after the summer. And they sat us down and we were like, what's going on? And then he was like, yeah, so we're going back to Belgium. We're going back to Shape. We're moving in July. And this was like
Wow.
in like start of June, they were like, yeah, we're moving in 3 weeks. And I was sitting there like, me and my brother were like, okay, but we just bought a house. We just got a
Mm.
cat. Like, we didn't get to say
You
bye
just
to
got a
any of
cat.
our friends. Yeah, because they were like, because they felt so bad for us moving all the time. They were like, okay, but now we're moving into a house and you guys are finally getting a pet. So you're getting the cat that you want,
Mm.
and we were just like, yeah, finally we're settling. And then they were just like, yeah, no, we're moving in 3 weeks. Welcome back. Um, so in that sense, like for the Norwegian military, you don't really get deployed unless you work in like the special forces or you work in
Mm.
the army. A lot of it is quite like voluntarily in a sense. So I grew up in a different sort of military family where like my dad was the one who chose where he wanted to work after a while. So we didn't get deployed. He's never been out anywhere where he didn't want to be sort of.
Yeah. Yeah. Same
So,
for me. It's like with the American military, when you get to a certain rank, you do have an opportunity to choose where you go next. And
yeah.
so my mom had worked at the White House, and then her next assignment, which was like she did have to go back overseas, but they allowed her to choose where. And so that's when she
Okay.
chose Shape.
Yeah.
And then she got out, and we ended up staying at Shape until I graduated high school. So it just all
Yeah.
depends on where your parents are in their military career.
But so do you have to move around in the States as well?
Yes, you do. They say for like a certain amount of time, like you'll be assigned somewhere. Some kids, 2 to 3 years, they'll stay in one state, and they might be, moved to another. So that does happen a lot. Now, like back then, a lot of our parents were being sent overseas because it was necessary for them to switch out. So
Mm-hmm.
the ones who are overseas come back, and then so that was necessary. So that's not really happening much anymore because bases have closed.
Yeah.
Not as necessary presence for the United States to be over there as much. So more kids are just kind of staying within the bounds of the United States.
Okay. Yeah. Because like in the Norwegian military, it's like I said, like, you, if you choose, you have your like training one place. And if you want to stay in the military, you usually stay in the place where like you had your training.
Okay.
And it's usually in the north or like the south. But then, you have to apply. Like, if you want to go to Oslo, you have to apply. Like, oh, I want to work there, and then you have to apply for a job there. It's not like they will just say, oh, we need you all the way
Okay.
up north. So you have to move there in a year. You have to stay there for 2 years. That's not how it is in Norway. So it's very like, yeah. And unless you're in the special forces and you actually like have to go overseas,
Hmm.
then you might have to move. But a lot of people also like, since Norway's quite small, so it's like easy to get around. So a lot of people might actually work in the north, but their family lives in the south, and then
Hmm.
they just like go back and forth every week. So when we actually came back from Belgium to this like small country area, my dad worked in Oslo, so he was only coming home during the weekends
Okay.
because he lived in Oslo and worked there because they didn't have a military base.
Mm.
They also shut that down. They did have one before. So that's where like my dad, when he was in his 20s, he went to the military school there.
Hmm.
But they shut that down. So they only have like a base in Oslo and then a couple of bases up north.
Okay.
But yeah, so I mean, he was going back and forth and he only came home during the weekend. So that was a bit of like a change for us, where like we were so used to being a very tight knit family living together all these years. And, you know, then my mom was at home with 5 kids alone
Yeah.
during the week. So it was actually quite a change. And I actually almost forgot that it was like that for a while, but yeah, but so then he had to go to Oslo because that was where the work sort of was. So
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. We for us, it's the same civilian wise. So once you get out of the military, then you have to apply for the different jobs and where you want to
okay,
be. So yeah, it's on the opposite side of it.
right. So I guess then probably the way it works in Norway is how it is for the people working civil
Yeah.
in
Yeah. Yeah. The
then.
civilian side.
Like,
Yeah. Like GS jobs and all that. Yeah.
yeah,
That's interesting. I never knew that. I
yeah.
just thought like you guys got assigned to the state, like Belgium every single time or something. Like I was like, is
Yeah,
this the
no,
only
I
other
mean,
place or?
yeah. No, I mean, there are some people who like go to Washington and they go to Ramstein, but I think like Shape and the NATO HQ quarter in Belgium are like the biggest basis, I think, for Norwegian family, like for them to bring their family.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it's not common to have 3 periods at Shape for like a
Yeah.
Norwegian officer. So everyone was very like, you know, when my dad was there now the last time, the people there were a bit like, what are you still doing here? Like, why are you still here? Like, how did you get 3 times to come to Shape? I mean, most people, they come here for like 1 period, stay here for 5 years, and they never come back. And you've been
Yeah.
here like, you know, since the early 2000s, and now it's like 2022. What are you like for the last 20 years? Basically, he went
Yeah.
back and forth between Norway and Shape. So I think for me, it's like a very special thing where Shape is I mean, I've moved around so much. And even though I haven't moved like to a lot of different countries, Shape has always been like the one constant like thing. We always come back to Shape. And I think that's also one of the reasons why for me, like coming back here to Brussels now, since I work here now, I mean, for me, it was very like, you know, I wanted something new, but still
Yeah.
it's like, it's not really new because I still have a lot of friends here. You know the city, you know the country, you know the language and the culture. So for me, you know, it's not like a very drastic thing to like, oh, I'm going to move overseas. You know, I'm going to move to another country and work. But people find that very, like my friends in Norway, they're like, oh my gosh, you're so brave that you're moving away from your family and, you know, doing your own thing. And I'm like, well, you know, it's sort of like coming home and it doesn't feel that strange really to, I don't know,
Yeah.
just do what I want to do, you know?
Yeah. Sometimes you have to. It takes stepping away from your family to really figure out who you are.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just necessary to separate and have a little bit of space between you guys. But I mean, it's literally a plane ride away. So
Yeah, I mean, it's like 2 hours, so
yeah.
it's not a no, but I did feel like it was important for me actually when I came back here now. It was more like I've never been in Belgium on my own. You know, it's
Yeah.
always been with my family and at Shape. And one thing that I'm noticing now is like I have to register, I have to get an ID card. I'm having so many issues because I have this like protocol ID in the Belgian
Hmm.
system after like we've been here for so many years. And now they're like, I have to contact the military police at Shape and ask them to be like, hey, you guys, you have to remove me from the system. I'm no
Oh
longer a
wow.
part of like, you know, the NATO military.
Yeah.
I'm not having any special benefits for being here. I'm just a regular worker. So that's actually a bit like different and like having to deal with electricians and things
Hmm.
that are not working in my apartment. Like I have to do it on my own. That's the first for me. Even
Yeah.
though I'm like 27, I mean, it's about time, but it's very hectic. Yeah, it's like I told you, it's like it takes some time to like settle in. Finally, my like heating for my shower is working. I'm
Oh,
very
wow.
happy I managed to
That's good.
like stutter a few French words to get my heater working. So you know, it took some time, but now I feel like it's going quite well. So
That's good. Yeah, it's forcing you to learn French out there, huh?
yeah,
Finally.
it is finally, after like 13 years, now I have to learn French.
I know. You and me both. I'm still not there either. So
No.
I know it's so like everybody asks me, they're like, you were in Belgium for like like your whole life. And I'm like, yeah, what's your point? Like, you don't know any French? I was like, no, like I hung out with Americans and like,
Yeah.
yes, I did a club team, but it wasn't like I was hanging out with them like daily and having conversations. Like it was a couple hours every other day, and they did become family, but most of them spoke English. So
Yeah. And I think that's the thing with Shape as well, because people are like, oh yeah, but you lived in Belgium. And I was like, yeah, but it's a very international, like
yeah.
Shape is sort of like a little country within a country. Because we had our stores, we had our schools, we had Pizza Bowl.
Yeah.
Everyone there spoke English, so it's not like you really had to use French.
Yeah.
So, and then also like as Norwegian, I mean, we spoke Norwegian at home. We had a Norwegian school, we had Norwegian friends, Norwegian neighbors. So it was like a little community of just like English and Norwegian, any other language, but not as much French, to be honest.
Yeah. There was not a lot of like Belgian people on posts, and if there were, like they worked at the Pizza Bowl, but like it wasn't like they were in our school or anything. It was pretty interesting. Yeah.
It must have been I've thought about this. It must have been very strange for the Belgians to have like a bunch. Yeah. To have like a bunch of like random international people coming in and being like, "Ooh, we're taking over your," like, and they're just there like, we're just living our life in our country, like our home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Bunch of crazy Americans and Norwegians and Spanish people, and I don't really know.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is interesting. I knew a couple of Belgians, but like they all spoke English as well. Like Julian and all of them, like they spoke English. So, and they would speak French amongst themselves, but they would speak English with us. So
yeah, I'm actually a bit upset that I didn't get to like have the youth experience at Shape, because I mean when I left we were quite, we were still kids basically.
Yeah.
But I just remember like my brother telling me all this, like really, I mean they had a lot of fun at Shape.
Yeah, we did.
And I'm actually a bit upset that I didn't get to have that. I have to like be rebellious in Norway where like, it's super expensive to buy alcohol. I mean, the distances are super far. You don't really, you couldn't go out to a bar. I mean, in Norway it's quite strict. I mean, it's stricter in the States actually, but most places are like 18 to drink beer, and then you have to be 21 to drink anything over 20%, I think it is.
Oh,
so you didn't really,
in Norway?
In Norway.
Okay.
So you don't really like go out to bars or like go out to clubs or anything until you're much older. And also just because it's super expensive to go out. Like people drink before they go out, and then they're like super drunk when they go out. So they have to leave because,
yeah,
because it's so expensive to go out.
Wow. Well, I never thought about that. Like, yeah, at Shape, like, 16, and it was right there, and you could get on a bus and pay €2 to go downtown, go to the Euro Shop bar and whatever.
I've never been to a bar in Mons.
What? I have to come back and take you. Like,
you have to come back and take me, like, show me what did you guys do without me when I wasn't there?
So much. I'll show you where I got way too drunk on one night, and they were doing construction, and I got over my pants and everything. Like,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's been some pretty long nights downtown.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine. I remember I went back visiting I think I was in 10th grade or something, and I think I was 16, and I was so like, wow, oh my gosh, I can drink. I can go buy Smirnoff Ice at Carrefour.
Yeah.
I remember we did
had to wait till we were 18 to get that for some reason.
Really?
Yeah, for Americans, I had to be 18. Like our ex stayed on until we were 18.
Oh.
Yeah. So we could go downtown and have fun, but we just couldn't buy beer or anything on post until we were 18. So that was the one thing that was different.
So you guys didn't have like the Belgian ID card? Did you only have the American?
We had the Belgian ID cards as well. They were given to us, but because we are American, we had to use the Shape one. Like on Shape, everything was our
Oh,
shape
right.
ID. The Belgian
Right.
ID was only really to travel. So like if we were pulled over, they would know that we were military plus the
Hmm.
license plate, but they would know we were military. Or when we came back into Belgium, we would show our ID and they'd be like, okay, cool.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah, no, because I think we just like used our Norwegian like passport and ID.
Mm,
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, we only used the shape card for like getting into base, and I mean
okay.
also like if you wanted to buy wine or something at the. I mean, in Norwegian we call it rissen.
Oh yeah,
What's
the
it called?
ration. I think it's the ration store
Yeah,
now,
the
right?
ration
Yeah,
store. Yeah,
yeah,
we just call it rissen. It's
yeah.
yeah, the ration store, the Riz.
Yeah, yeah. No, we had to use our ID. Yeah, it was just to travel with the Belgian
Yeah,
ID. Yeah, but once I turned
no,
18,
it
that
was
was
all
good.
good.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
but plus before, like, it wasn't like we were partying on Shape anyway. And if we were, we had people who were older than us. Sorry, not sorry, who would
yeah.
like buy it and stuff like that. So like, it wasn't a huge deal.
No, I mean, I remember my brother told me this. He was like, because I think they were like 15, 16. And my parents were just like, well, because I asked my parents, because they were quite strict with me,
Hmm.
probably when we moved back to Norway, but probably because, I was the first daughter. It's a bit more like they watch out for you more than maybe what they did for my brother. But it was also because when we lived in Norway, then that it was a much like bigger area, a
Hmm.
lot of like a bunch of other people. They didn't know everyone you were hanging out with. While when my brother was like 16, 17, they were just at Shape, and
Yeah,
everyone he was hanging out with was like, my parents knew the kids, they knew the parents. And there's so much that can sort of happen when you're like locked on base
yeah,
with like militaries all around. it's
exactly.
it's
Yeah,
like a safer environment in that sense. So yeah, but I just remember him telling me all these stories, and I was like, man, I wish I could have been a part of it. But you have to come visit, and you have to show me, and that'd be great.
I got you. I got you. Yeah. Speaking on that, did you guys have rules? Because like for us, as like in high school and stuff, we had rules that like, you know, if we got in trouble with like military police or anything, if we got like a third strike, we would get kicked out of Shape in Belgium, and we would have to move back to the States to
Really?
be with our like extended family. Because you're right, like for us, we were representing the United States, and
Yeah.
they can't is I understand you can't have a whole bunch of people fighting all the time, doing things they're not supposed to do. So yeah, if you got three strikes, you would be sent back home. Like, did you guys have that for you guys? Like, were there any type of rules? Hey guys, I wanted to take a quick break to ask if you are enjoying this episode. Go ahead and follow us on Stories of a Dandelion right here on Spotify or wherever you're getting your podcast, as well as follow us on all of our social media accounts. Let's create this community full of military brats who feel that they're okay with opening up about their mental health, about sharing their journey, what they're going through, and create a place for beautiful healing through stories. So again, please go ahead and follow us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, as well as all of the social media accounts. Now let's get back to today's episode.
I don't think so. I think it was more for like because for the Norwegian school, then I know that if you did drugs and stuff, then you would get expelled. And I think it was something like the 3 rule, like you would get expelled from the school if you like permanently
Mm-hmm.
after like the 3rd strike, like you're out, but not in the sense where like you were sent home or like your family had to go home. I think for Norway, I mean, for the Norwegians, it was not as strict because, we weren't that many. I mean, we were quite a few, but we weren't that many people. I just remember my dad being like really upset with my brother because he was stealing from the car for at Shape with some friends. And, the military police came and they like saw his ID and they called my dad, and my dad had to come in his uniform and he was super pissed.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think we had any like very strict rules in the sense where like, okay, if you had to go back home and you couldn't live in Shape or in Belgium after a few times. So we didn't, not that I know of, and I never heard of anyone like getting sent.
Yeah. I had a couple of
Sent
friends.
back. Yeah, I just knew one person who took some drugs when we were on a school trip with a Norwegian school, and she wasn't allowed back.
Mm,
But
yeah.
I mean, I was quite young when that happened, so I just remember it was like a big thing. But other than that, I don't think we really had any like super strict rules on that. I
Okay.
think it was more like up to the parents what they wanted to do, because I know some people like had kids who didn't I mean, they didn't do anything wrong, but they just didn't like it, and maybe they acted up a bit, so they decided to like the mom and the kids would move back to Norway and the dad would stay, or like the other way around.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I had a couple friends that were like sent back, but then they like came back after a year or so. Like, so
it's so weird. I didn't know that that was a thing actually, that you could
mhm.
like, okay, you have to go back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I mean, it makes sense though, because if you just had this like community of like people running around doing whatever they wanted to, feeling like they were
Exactly.
like on cloud nine, because you are in like you have a special status when you're living. I mean, when you're part of NATO and the military in Belgium, you had like a special, I don't know what it's called, like not immunity of some sorts, but you know, it
No,
was like,
it wasn't. We were just representing. You know, you're representing your country
yeah,
within, especially NATO. Like it was just a huge deal that we didn't really understand at the time.
yeah, 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 yeah. The one
So
thing that
yeah.
I've been wondering actually is because, I mean, I feel very fortunate that, I mean, first of all, that I'm Norwegian, but also that we have very good like deals in the military when they go back. Like it's not like our lifestyle in Belgium is the same as we have in Norway. But one
Mm.
thing that I've noticed is that it's different for Americans. Like if your family is in the military and you stay at Shape and then you go back on your own for college or whatever, it seems like, you know, that this way of living and the standard of living is lower than what it is at Shape. So how does that work? Like, are they not, so like kids of like military families who stay at Shape,
Mm.
what happens when they go back to the States to like college?
Oh,
And
we all fell and we all like, well, no,
it goes
no,
to shit. No,
it just goes to shit. No, I'm just kidding. No, we we come back, but the biggest thing for all of us that we continue to say is like it's a huge culture shock to go from living a military brat life first of all, and then having this bubble that you're in for like so many years. And a lot of us came back and we weren't really sure what to do. Like we would try to make friends, but it's the hardest thing in the world. And you know, now you have to figure out finances. And for me, my mom was still in Belgium because she still had her job there and she couldn't get a job back yet. And so I had me and my dad, who didn't have a great relationship at the time. So it was felt for a minute there that I was trying to figure everything out on my own. Even though I did have help, it just didn't feel like I did at the same time. So you come back and you decide to go to college or you decide to go in the military. And if you go to college, you don't realize how much debt you are accumulating when you're
yeah,
in there, until somebody who's older than you is like, yo, like, this is, you know, there's a lot of debt. You don't want to stay here an extra year. I almost had to stay at my college for an extra year just because my first year was just super hard, stressful. I couldn't cope with the new environment that I was in. But we did summer school, thank God. Still have a lot of loans that I'm paying off. And I just talked with my friend Fabio a couple weeks ago and on this podcast. And he told me about like how much money he had to pay for being Italian. I was a little ticked off because it wasn't a lot at all, you know,
no,
yearly. But for us, I think my school was
oh
$40,000 a
my,
year.
$40,000.
$40,000 a year for
My Lord.
classes, housing, food, which wasn't that great, and whatever other bull crap they wanted to put on
Yeah.
your debt. So yeah, you come back and either you go in the military and you continue that lifestyle and you don't have as much debt because when we were going in, they were paying for your college. Now if you go in, they're not paying for your college, so you still have to pay off your college while you're in the
Military,
military.
right? Or
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And so, yeah, things have changed, but it just takes us a couple years to realize that, like, you know, we'll be okay. But it just takes us a couple years to get out of that culture shock, get out of the realization that we're not military brats anymore. We are,
Yeah.
but we aren't at the same time. So we have to figure out our lifestyle outside of that military life, because as many military posts that are in America, it's not this thing where it's a huge deal. Like, it's like 1% of the whole United States. So it's not like you're going to run into a military brat on the street, you know?
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Because
only
I would,
1%.
I just assumed that, like, okay, being a military brat was like quite common in the States because, but I mean, that's also maybe because all the Americans I know, you know, they're military brats. I'm just
Yeah.
like, everyone here, you know, they're all military brats. You know, because I didn't know that, because that's like the thing where, I mean, as a Norwegian, I'm so privileged to, like, you know, because we have free schooling. We get like, yeah, I mean, it costs like 25 euros a year to
I'm
go
done. I
to
quit. You know what? Forget
go
the
to
rest of this.
university. And also, like, we can apply for, I mean, because we do have student loans. It's not that like everything is free, but when we're students, you get like this stipend on, like, I actually just converted it. It's around 825 American dollars. You can apply for a month, and you get this for as many years as you're like doing your education. So if you want to do a bachelor, you can apply for this for 3 years. If you do your master's, 2 more years. If you have to take new courses, you can apply for this as long as you're a full-time student. And then when you finish your degree, if you have passed all your exams, you haven't failed anything, then you will 70% of that amount for those years that you studied will be a stipend, and the rest will be your student loans.
So you're saying like your student loans are like this small?
I'm actually going to do a converting to see. Let's see, to US dollars. So I mean, yeah, you're gonna hate me when I tell you what my student loans
Okay,
are.
I hated Fabio too. It's all good.
Because my student loans are 32,000 American dollars, and that's 5 years of
Wow.
university, and yeah, so that's what I have to pay. But I mean, again, in Norway, it's like, sure, you have this money, but we have super high taxes. It's super expensive to rent. So I mean, it just about covers your rent, basically. The stipend that you get, it covers your rent. It's not enough to cover food. It's not enough to cover books.
Okay.
So a lot of people work part-time to basically just have money to live. And when you sort of go over a certain amount, which is like 50,000 Norwegian kroner, I will check what it is again. It's very hard to like convert to US dollars. Yeah, so if you go above like 5,000 American dollars, that's when you get into this, like, then you have to pay taxes. So if you have amounts higher than that, you have to pay taxes. And your taxes are quite high. Like, we pay 32% of our income goes to taxes. So yeah, so I mean, in that sense, like, we're lucky with, like, you know, you can have basically free education, and I have like 40 years to pay off my student loans.
Okay.
But if you like want to buy an apartment and you have your loans in the Norwegian, I mean, for me, it's actually very expensive to live in Belgium as a Norwegian, because I get paid in Norwegian currency for my work. And the exchange, like, the rate is super bad. Like, it's super bad right now. The Norwegian rate is very, very low. So like 1 Norwegian krone is almost at 12 now. No, I mean, 1 euro is 12 Norwegian krone.
Okay.
So the exchange rate is super bad. So for me, it's actually very expensive to live in Belgium, even though, like, Belgium is cheap compared to Norway, but I'm still like, it's basically like living in Norway for me right now, just because I have to pay everything with Norwegian currency.
Yeah.
So I mean, but in that sense, like, when a lot of us leave Shape, you know, we still have the very stable support system around us. When we go back to Norway, you know, you still have a very good support system to get you
Yeah.
through through all of that. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I just saw like a big difference in that. Like when I also see like a lot of my American friends on Facebook, it's just weird how, and I mean, so many people are married with kids,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, I'm sorry, but it's such like an American thing to me because I mean, none of my Norwegian friends are. I mean, I have one friend who's getting married in September, and I'm just like, are you crazy? Like, what are you doing? And I have one friend who has a kid. She's like 1 year older than me, and I'm like, you can't be a teenage mom. Like, what are you doing? Like, like I
28-year-old teenage mom.
like I'm 27. I can't be a teen mom. I'm just like,
Oh
I'm so,
god. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't like as far as like loans go, like it doesn't sound like it's too different from the United States because like for me, I think like it's 25,000 left that I have to pay off, and but for us, I
okay.
don't know if you have interest.
Mm,
We have
no,
interest on our loan, so that's what
we have
makes it
like
hard.
it was frozen
Hmm.
at like 4.3 or something percent. But now because of the inflation and because of the super bad, because the world is going to shit, basically, they raise the interest on that as well. But
Wow.
usually the student loans stay frozen. They're
Yeah.
not allowed to change it to the same rate as a lot of other banks do for loans.
Okay. Yeah. I
So,
mean, our interest. I mean, our rates stay the same, but like it's like, and then they don't really start for 10 years after you graduate. So you have
okay.
time. You have time, but for like, and then you do have certain loans that you don't have to pay back. But it's
Mm-hmm.
not like any specific thing for being a military brat or anything. It's just like
No.
it's based off of your parents' income. And so, which is funny to me because I'm going to school based off my parents' income, which means I have to pay my student loans based off of what they brought in, but I don't bring in the same as they do. Yeah.
It's so weird.
Yeah. But I mean, like to pay it back, it then comes into your income. So, like, whatever you bring in, and that's how much you pay off a month. It's up to you if you
Yeah.
want to, like, pay more or pay less.
Yeah.
And then you can get your loans forgiven. It's a very hard thing, but you
Really?
can get your loans forgiven depending on the job you do. So I've been trying to do that for this last year to get my loans forgiven because nobody wants to pay that money.
No, right. So then your work can actually pay off your student loans?
It depends on the government. So you have to apply for it through the government. If they see like the work you're doing, like if you're a nurse or if you're a doctor or like a firefighter or something like that, if they feel as if, because even if you're that, sometimes they don't get forgiven. If they feel that the work you're doing or whatever they do, because who knows, it's the government, they could decide
Yeah.
because your
Whatever.
butt is cute that they want to forgive your, whatever.
Yeah.
So, but if they decide to forgive it, then, you know, it's forgiven. So, but you have to apply for it. And it's really hard because there's a certain window and they
Mm-hmm.
don't really like, always advertising it to
Of
everybody.
course.
So,
Oh, wow. And I mean, and we do have something similar in Norway, but it's more like if you move all the way up north and
mm,
have a kid, they will delete some of your student loans because they want people to move out to the rural
mm,
areas of Norway. So basically, like a lot of like the, what's it called? Like mayors of the like different cities. They're like, oh, if you come to our tiny, tiny town all the way up north where no one wants to live because it's like freaking super cold and it's dark all the time, like it's
yeah.
horrible. But if you stay here for 5 years and have a kid who enrolls in kindergarten, we'll pay your student loans. so,
Wow. Yeah,
so
yeah,
that's what
I'm
we're
sure
trying
they
to
have the
do.
money to do it. Nobody's up there.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm considering it at some point if it's, I'll just get a kid and move up north. Why
Yeah.
not?
When you're not a teen anymore, you'll.
I'm not a teen, so I still have like 10 years or so till that time, in my opinion. So,
That is so funny. Yeah. Yeah, we are. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you about like the whole thing of us getting married and like having
of
kids
all the
because I
kids in
can't
the,
explain it. Like, I don't know. I remember being in college and like seeing people have kids and I was like, what the? Like, I'm barely eating myself.
yeah. how can you feed another person?
So yeah, I'm still at that place right now too. Like, how can you feed another person? But man, like, it's so good to see them though, like have their like life and growing into it with their kids and everything. So it's just so
It,
interesting because when we were all in high school, we're like, we're not having kids this early, like
yeah,
whatever. And then we're all out of high school. I'm like, what the? Hold up.
yeah, yeah. It's I mean, yeah, for me, it's just, I mean, the birth rate in Norway, like for firstborn is like 33 years old
Mm,
is like the average rate of women giving birth. So for
wow.
me being like 25, having a kid, it's very out of, I don't have any friends I'm not an auntie to any of my friends' kids because no one has kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for us, it's, yeah, I mean, it's just a different way of living, I think, like, but
Yeah.
still, it's also thinking of like I really hope we can have like the reunion soon because I'd love to like see everyone and I'll just be like the crazy drunk at the party, just like, ooh, I don't care,
I have a feeling
oh
like we all would be the crazy drunks at the
yeah,
party.
I mean everyone would be, but like people are like,
You're
oh,
gonna be next level because you didn't
do
get
you have a
the.
husband? Do you have kids? Do you have a house? And I'm like, no. I'm thinking of getting a cat. I have a robot vacuum cleaner. I'm very, that's my kid. That's my little kid.
Oh my god, that is hilarious. No, I'm with you right there. Like, nah, I'm not there yet. I thought I
No,
was, but
really? Were you thinking of it
yeah,
at some point?
I was like, you know how like you're just like, man, like because that's just how you would think your life would go. So like being
Of course.
American, really for us, it is kind of that, you graduate college, you get married, you have kids, and blah blah blah. So like completely open to like getting married to whoever I get married to, but like the whole having kids part, like I'm just not as open as I used to be. And I think it's just because I've started to reconsider like why do I want to have kids? Is it because I
Yeah.
want to have kids, or is it just because it was a part of the plan, like that it was
Yeah.
like you're just always gonna have kids and that's what you've always said or been told. And
Yeah. It's like a
so
societal thing also, I think,
yeah.
where like you see everyone, I mean, the same thing where like you see everyone around you having all these things and like you automatically think, okay, but this is the plan. This is the way
Yeah.
of life. This is how it should be. And what I'm really excited to see is I think also actually people from our generation is much more like, I'm going to focus on myself first. I'm going to,
Hmm.
get my financial shit in order and I'm going
Yeah.
to be a boss ass by myself and doing all of the things I want to do before I'm
Yeah.
very for that like, what happens, happens. I also thought I mean, at a point I wanted to move to Utah, become a pastor's wife, have like six
Exactly.
kids, and
Yeah.
just being a housewife. That's what I wanted to do. And now I'm like, living by myself, working. I have no intention of um, doing anything but to focus on myself, to be honest. Like,
Wow.
I like having some like financial freedom to travel, buy some things I want. If I want to, have an expensive steak for dinner on a Wednesday,
Hmm.
I really appreciate that freedom that I have right now in that. So yeah, it's,
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, it's a strange thing. Like I mean, when I turned 24, my mom was like, oh, when I was 24, I had your brother. Why are you single? Where are the kids? I want to be a grandparent. And I'm like,
Mm.
sorry, I'm out partying. There's no kids here.
The
Mom, shut up.
disconnection.
I can't hear you. Sorry.
Yeah, I get
You
you.
know your thoughts? I mean,
And that's where I am now with my mom. She's like, so, because like she's bought her house, she has her house. And like, she's like, all right, in the backyard, there's going to be like a hoop for my grandkids and
oh
this
my
for my
gosh.
grandkids. And I'm just like,
Right.
you know,
Because do you have siblings?
no, it's just me. I mean, I
No.
have a sister, but she's me and we have the same father. So,
Right.
yeah.
But yeah, so you're your mom's only child. So
Mhm.
she's like, you're the first. Yeah. I mean, I have my older brother, so I feel like he should have a kid before I do. And luckily, he is also very like, he's enjoying his life with his girlfriend. They're just,
Mhm.
having a good time together. And so I'm just like, as long as once he has his first kid, then maybe I can start to feel the pressure. But until then,
No.
not
Okay.
even
Yeah,
bothered.
I
But
get
I do
you.
love
Yeah.
kids. I love kids though.
Oh,
So
yeah. Kids are adorable. They're great, you know.
Sweet.
But you know, it's just the timing and if it's right for you and all that good stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah. But that leads us into our last question, which for you may look different than everybody else in the past on this podcast. What do you see yourself doing? Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
That's a very loaded question. I mean, for me, I see myself working, to be honest. I'm not sure if I see myself still being in Belgium. Because I do at some point want to go back to Norway. But I mean, in 5 years, I see myself like thriving in a boss ass like pantsuit, maybe with a house in south of France, drinking wine. Because
Alright.
I can, I've been working super hard for the last 5 years. I'm enjoying my life as, I mean, for me, it's very like work oriented, to be honest. I really want to like be successful in what I do. I'm very passionate about what my work and putting myself first in that sense. So in 5 years, I just see myself as a successful working woman, to be honest.
That's good.
Independent woman. If someone comes along, then great. But I still, I'm doing my thing and they can jump along and join me, but they're not like, yeah. But I mean, again, that's the thing where like, what I would tell my 18-year-old self is, don't stress, don't worry. You can plan, you can hope, you can like say, okay, in 5 years, I'll do this, I'll be there. But, things have a way of like working out no matter what you do. So I'm sure I'll be very happy again in 5 years, but my focus is on me and my career, to be honest. Yeah. So that's where I see myself the next 5 years.
That's good. How did you get to be this mature young woman that you are? Like, especially like mentally. No, seriously, like, especially like mentally, because you're just like, it's me. And if you want to come along on the ride with me, then come on and let's do it together. But like, so did you do therapy? Like, do you guys, is that big for Norwegians to do therapy and stuff like that? Like,
no, it isn't. So it's not, a lot of people do. It's not necessarily frowned upon, but Norwegians are very much like you handle your own shit. Like you're going through shit, you handle it yourself. You don't involve other people. You don't need help. And I mean, I love my dad. I have a great relationship with my family, but one thing that was actually quite difficult for me was after my gap year and when I did my first year at university, that was the first time in my life where I decided where I wanted to live. So I moved to Bergen, to a city where I didn't know anyone. I didn't know any of my friends who I was, all of my Norwegian friends usually move to the cities where they know their other friends are going. For me, I was very like, I have to do something for myself. So I chose to move to a completely new city. I didn't know anyone. My parents were then in Belgium, so they weren't really in Norway at the time either. And I remember I actually really struggled because, you guys, I've always been a very outgoing person, not afraid of like, standing out, being stupid, silly. I have no filter, it's, very like, excited to like be around people and be out, not afraid to meet new people or try new things. And I met this wall, to be honest, that first year where I had like panic attacks and I got social anxiety. And I tried to go to therapy. I went to a psychologist to talk about it and like try to figure out like, cause it felt so strange to me that I was, like when I was meeting new people, I had a real struggle with like, I couldn't go to the store by myself. I basically just stayed in my apartment. I found it very hard to like go to class alone. I always had to like ask a friend, hey, can we meet up? Can we walk together? So I actually struggled a lot with social anxiety for like two years then. And I remember like having a panic attack when I was visiting my family in Belgium. I went on like a student trip. I was arranging the student trip for my class and we were out drinking. I was really like tired. I had, booked everything. I was just super tired and had too much to drink. And all of a sudden I had a panic attack when we were out in Brussels. And I don't remember anything of it. I remember my friend like putting me in a taxi. I got home. My parents didn't understand what was going on. And I was open with them with saying that I've been struggling with anxiety and I'm trying
Mm-hmm.
to get help. And like, do we have anyone in the family who has like had similar things? Because it was so like out of character of me
Yeah.
to sort of like, why do I have social anxiety? Why am I all of a sudden like an introverted person who gets
Yeah.
tired from being in social
Yeah.
circles? I mean, it was so like far out from what I identify myself as, you know? And I told my dad, I was like, yeah, you know, I'm thinking of like, because for university, you had like 5 sessions you could get for free if you
Mm-hmm.
wanted to go to therapy or go to a psychologist. But it's very expensive in Norway. It's like super expensive. So as a student, you
Yeah.
don't really have the means to really have therapy unless you're like, so like unless you have severe issues, like you really, really need help, you can get it through, you know, the Norwegian public health system, but
Yeah.
it's like 2-3 months waiting time to just
Okay.
have one session. So if you really need help there, and then you have to pay for it yourself, and it's really expensive. So basically what I said was I asked my parents, because I was like, I need the means. Actually, I want to try to go to therapy. I feel very uncomfortable in this like state of mind. And my dad was, you know, he sort of like, he heard what I was saying, but he
Mm-hmm.
didn't understand it. And he was very like, you know, we don't go to therapy. We don't need help. We fix this ourselves. Like, get your shit together.
Yeah.
Being understanding, but also super strict. So I actually didn't really go to therapy. And basically, I just tried to expose myself. So I like pushed my own boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And it was going very well for a very long time. And I finally felt like I was coming back to myself. You know, I tried to like go to the store without having headphones in. Even like just taking a little walk outside of my apartment just so that I could like actually go outside. Because for me, like the door and, you know, like my outdoor was like,
Mm-hmm.
it was just a block for me to actually leave my apartment.
Mm-hmm.
So I started off with like 5-minute walks, going to the store just to like get something. I was very focused on that, and I just sort of expanded that, and it went very well. So I feel like I not necessarily like cured myself, but I
Mm-hmm.
learned how to like handle those situations. I learned how to identify like the panic attacks coming in, and then sort of like finding ways of coping
Mm-hmm.
before it like turned out to a big like panic attack.
Yeah.
And then COVID came,
Yeah.
and we were isolated for like a year. And then it came back, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
shit, now I have to start all over again. I was really struggling. And then now, you know, I still don't go to therapy for it. I probably should, because but I also feel like I'm very like self-reflected
Mm-hmm.
in that I've worked a lot with my own like social, well, like my mental health in all of this. And I've found ways of coping with the things that I struggle with.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, it's just like a bit, I live for like the fake it till you make it in
Yeah.
every sense of the word, in every aspect of my life. I always like tell myself, fake it till you make it. So if I do feel uncomfortable in a social situation, you know, I just think to myself, well, fake it. You're very social. Just like pretend that everything is fine, and then we can deal with it when you get back home. Which, I mean, it's not healthy, but I'm managing.
Yeah.
But definitely, you know, I definitely want to set off some time to like go to therapy and actually like figure out, because I'm still very curious as to how it like came to
Mm-hmm.
that point for me a couple of years ago, because I still to this day don't understand like what happened or why I was the one struggling with social anxiety. I would have never thought I would struggle with
Yeah.
social anxiety, to be honest.
Yeah. I understand. I completely get you. I went through the same thing when I moved back. First day of school, I was driving to go to my dorm, and I had a panic attack in my car by myself. And I called my dad, and I had no idea. I thought I was having a heart attack because, like, I
Right.
just couldn't.
So scary. So scary.
Just it's weird. Yeah, I couldn't breathe, and he was like, "You're having a panic attack. Calm down." And my dad was like, "What happened?" I was like, "I don't know. I was on the street to like go into my school, and everything just stopped, and I couldn't breathe." And so I went back home the first day of school, and tried again the next day, and I didn't have a panic attack the next day. But yeah, there's still times for me as well where I have panic attacks over just random situations and social anxiety as well. Like I used to, for about like a year or so, like after I graduated, like I was just very to myself, didn't really care to like make friends. And then I did it the last year, my senior year of college. I did the same thing. I kind of just stuck to myself. I still hung out with people, but like I wasn't like going out of my way to meet new people because I was like, I'm graduating, I'm getting out of this place. Let's call it
Yeah,
a day,
I'm
you
good,
know?
yeah.
Exactly. And it wasn't like I didn't have like a good time my whole college career, but it was those negative times that I was just really in the dark space was what just over clouded the whole thing, and I was just ready to get out.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it comes back every now and then too. Like
Have you gone to therapy for it?
I've gone to therapy. I started going to therapy last year, but again, it is also expensive as well. So you have to just make sure like when you have a job, like you have to make sure they include therapy and mental health in that, which more companies are starting to. But if they don't, then you have to pay like a good $250 to $300 per
Wow.
session for an hour. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I think it's so, I mean, I actually think it's rude that it's so expensive to like seek help and get therapy because there's so many people who like need it and would actually like, it shouldn't be that you get help when you're at your lowest and like your most extreme. I think like the best cure for managing your mental health is to nip it in the bud as early as possible because
yeah,
then you can get the tools to deal with it and you can manage it in a much better way. So I get that, but I mean it's not nice to hear that you went through the same thing. I'm very like sorry that you also had to
no,
go through that, but
yeah,
it is, I mean, like it's nice to hear because I know you also, like, I mean, we haven't seen each other for like over 10 years, but I
yeah,
mean, I always remember you also as like a very extroverted social person, loving everyone. I mean, we did so much like stupid shit when we were in
we
middle
did
school.
a lot together.
I get these like on this day on Facebook and I
Yeah.
cringe every time because it's just like, oh my, it's horrible. It's
I
the worst.
remember every time I see him, I'm like, oh, it's Isolde, look at her.
No, I don't understand any of the like the Facebook statuses because it's just like random shit. And I was like, I mean, the things we were joking about, it's
Yeah,
just like it
doesn't make
wouldn't have
sense.
been okay today, to be honest. Like it's a lot of,
Yeah,
I'd
yeah,
get canceled if I was a famous person and people like showed this to the public. Like it's not good.
yeah.
Um,
We would have all been canceled.
it was very bad.
But that's the thing. Like, it was just because like we just had so many different nationalities and like
Yeah,
so many different
everyone.
cultures within our group. It was just like the stereotypes were just the dumbest thing. So we would
Yeah,
make fun of them and use them to make fun of each other, but not in like an intent to hurt each other, but just to poke fun at the dumbest stereotype in the freaking
yeah,
world
yeah, yeah.
that would be for us. So like it
Yeah.
just
No,
yeah, it was funny.
it's very funny. And I mean, I have all the pictures. They're just private on Facebook because I mean, we used Facebook a lot. I mean, I
Yeah.
have so many dumb pictures of us, Gina, that are like, I mean, you wouldn't, I mean, they're horrible. They're so like, I don't know, but I mean, I loved it. But I mean, yeah, but going back to then like the mental health thing of it
Yeah.
all, but it's interesting to hear that because I think it's a real thing where like maybe for very like social people at a young age who are exposed to a lot of people, like these are some thoughts that I've sort of made myself in the sense where I think I've like overcompensated for so many years and it actually roots from some sort of insecurity that I wasn't aware at the time that I had.
Yeah.
And then sort of growing up, coming more into yourself, you finally this like the insecurity sort of comes out because you have to deal with it because you're no longer in that like safe, you're not a kid, you're not in middle school, you can't just like joke around and I mean you can suppress it when you're a kid because you don't really have to deal with it because
Yeah.
there's
You
so
don't know
much
it's there either. So
you don't know and then all of a sudden it just like hits you and I think it comes at a point where like like you said you were going your first day to college. For me as well, I mean it was the first panic attack I ever had was I went back home to Belgium to my parents for like autumn break.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting on the plane on my way back, and I had this like lump in my stomach. Like, I really don't want to go back to Bergen. I mean, I was just like, I was very out of it. And all of a sudden on the plane, I stopped breathing. I thought I was having a panic attack. Like the flight attendant had to come and gave me like an oxygen mask, and everyone was, I mean, it was a horrible setting for me to actually have a panic attack. But it came so like sudden. And yeah, and I mean, it's just interesting because I think it stems from like a thing where we're probably so used to being so social and always, you know, being the person in the room who includes other people, drive the conversation. And I mean, after doing that for like 15 years, at a certain point, you know, you sort of reach your end to like, this isn't necessarily me. And like, you're faced with the thing where like, okay, you know, now I have to deal with this, and personality sort of changes. So I think like you're asking like, how did I become so mature and like calm in that sense? I mean, I'm not necessarily like super mature and super calm, but I've done a lot of reflection on exactly this. And I think it's just, you know, you learn how to cope with it in a healthy way and just like realize, you know, there's a time for everything. There's a time to be that person. There's a time to be this person. And yeah, you just have to sort of learn how to manage it.
Yeah.
And compose, and it's like not compose yourself, but you know, it's, yeah, I don't know. I just think it shapes you because then you have to, when I was dealing with my panic attacks in social settings and everything, I had to sort of suppress the panic and like the feelings that came with it. So that just automatically makes me a more calmer person, because if I do, I mean, I guess I'm like afraid of like, if I actually let it out, then, you know, I'll have the same reaction. And I'm trying my best to sort of keep it balanced.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I get you.
yeah, but
Like,
I mean, I can still like scream out and play the penis game in public if people are into that, you know, I can still do that. I don't care.
Oh God, I completely forgot that game until you just said it. Holy gosh, yeah.
There's a video of
some.
me in the pizza bowl, and we're just like screaming out penis, and I'm like, honey, I don't know, how old were we? 12, 13, 12 years old?
I'm pretty
I
sure.
was 12.
Like, yeah, you were definitely 12. And I don't
Right?
know why we encouraged that for you. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Right?
No, it is so weird.
God.
Like when you were outside of like that age that you were when you were doing stupid crap, and then like you just sit there and you look, and then you look at who's around you, and then I remember like because we had Mariah, and I was like, what are we doing? Like, why are we letting like these kids hang out with us at this age or saying stupid stuff? But we're only like a year apart, so I think that had a big thing to do with it. Like, it's like, oh, like she's only a year younger than me, so it's not like she's not exposed to like what everything we're exposed to as well. And oh my God, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I still want to apologize because we were the older people.
It's fine, you know. I mean, I thought it was fun. So
It was stupid. It was just stupid fun because like we would yell it until somebody stopped, like, and then like, or somebody came over and was like, "You need to stop yelling penis in the pizza bowl."
I mean, you're 13. Like,
Exactly.
You even know what a penis is, to be honest. Like,
it was the curiosity of everything at that age, because that's when everything like starts changing for boys and girls.
Yeah.
And the curiosity of life.
You can actually find the video of me screaming penis at the pizza bowl on YouTube still.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it's out there.
Well,
it's out there.
You gotta have something stupid out there for people to watch and laugh. Like,
I mean, I just want to also like tell people, like, you know, maybe people listening or people seeing this, like, you can do stupid shit and you can still, you know, be a successful person afterwards.
Exactly.
Like, you can scream penis out in the pizza bowl when you're 13, and you know, you can still be an adult.
Yeah, definitely. Oh my goodness, but yeah, totally stupid things that we did when we were younger, and it's just kind of like it. But it shaped all of us to be like the people we are. I don't think like if we hadn't gone through what we've went through or had the fun that we had, like we wouldn't be where we are today. Like being able to settle into whatever we want to do and being more confident in ourselves. And so it's good to see that you're doing well.
You
And I'm
too.
excited to come back so we can go downtown so I can
You know,
show you all the places.
you have to let me know when you're visiting, and I mean, you're more than welcome anytime to come over, and it'd be great to see you. Because I
Sounds
mean, it's been like 14 years,
Mm-hmm. It's been a
13
while.
years since I
Yeah.
left, since I saw you last.
Yeah. Yeah. I went to Shape in 2022 for
Yeah.
my birthday. So,
How'd
I
you feel
was.
going back? Because a lot of it's changed. You know, like the American
Mm-hmm.
school is gone. They have like new buildings. Pizza Bowl
Um,
isn't pizza bowling the way it used to. You know.
yeah. Well, they switched when I was there. Before I left, they switched managers. So it went from Derek to an American manager who works there now. So,
Okay.
like, yeah, it's completely different, which, it is what it is. But
Yeah.
going back in 2022, I felt like I could live in Belgium again because I had my Belgian friends. And, even though I went to go visit teachers and I, talked to the teachers I knew, and then I went and hung out with my Belgian friends like the whole week. Like, I came back and they're like, "Hey, you want to play basketball again? Like, come to basketball practice."
That's
And
so
their
nice.
coach, yeah, he was like, "Yeah, come practice with us." And so, practice with them. We went to dinner like 2 to 3 times when I was there, and it just felt like,
Coming
because
home.
of them, it still felt like home. So,
Yeah.
could easily slip right back in. I would definitely have to learn French, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind that, like so.
Yeah. Now it's like an incentive because now you can't fall back to I go to school at Shape. You actually have to be like, okay, I actually have to learn French. So
Exactly, yeah. The whole thing, I could always understand it, but like
same. I can
speaking
read
it,
it if you speak to me. I can understand it, but I just
mhm,
don't have the vocabulary to actually like
speak back.
speak back. I mean, I can order at a restaurant. I can ask where the tomatoes are in the store.
Hmm.
Now I can also, talk to an electrician about fixing my heater, which is, I'm quite
Important.
impressed. Important. It's important. But yeah, I can have a deep conversation about mental health in French, Maybe that's
Yeah.
what we should do in a year's time or something.
All
Both of
right.
us.
Sounds
The
good.
next time we talk about this in the podcast, it's in French.
The whole thing in French. Okay, I'm putting it on here. 1 year from what's today. I gotta start tomorrow. So
Yeah.
14th April.
Yeah.
Doing it again.
Oh, but this was so great. Thank you so much for having me. And it was so great to speak to you and see you and really appreciate it.
Of course, anytime. I was happy that you wanted to come on. Like when I reached out to you, I was like, I hope Isolde comes, and like, because I was like, I
Yay.
want my internationals to come on and have a conversation with me. But yeah, definitely so happy to see you. Can't wait to come and visit, and proud of you for everything you've done, everything you could do. Congrats on a new job. Hope
Thank
everything
you.
goes well.
And I also just want to say I love the concept of the podcast as well. I think it's a great way of, shedding light on this. And I think also, I'm not sure if you've talked about it earlier, but I mean, I would assume that it's a very like therapeutic thing for you as
Yeah,
well.
it is. Yeah,
Like you said,
starting this
like how it's
podcast made a difference. Yeah.
yeah, and like opening up and talk, and I mean, sort of like de-weaponizing it a bit, right? Because it's a very heavy subject, and it seems, I mean, it's a very serious subject, but I think it's very important the way you're doing it and getting the different perspectives on it, and just feeling like you're not alone
Exactly.
in the world with the issues you have. And so yeah, so I really appreciate it. I don't have any Norwegian friends really who were in the military who know of Shape, and I think a
Hmm.
lot of us like have the same experience afterwards. And I think all of us are dealing with like trying to find your place after in the world after like such a strange but very like nice time of your life. It's, I don't know, it's a weird thing to
Yeah.
like, it's
To
so
go through.
nice to talk about it again, right? Because I
Yeah.
never go back to that place because I don't really have anyone to talk to about it,
Yeah.
except for my family, but they they weren't a part of that life either
Yeah.
in the sense.
Yeah.
So
Not the same. They didn't experience what we did,
yeah,
and it's good though. I'm glad that it's helping people. This is helping people, and that I get to reconnect with all of you, because like I feel
Yeah.
like after we graduated, even with my American friends, like we kind of like I still talk to them, but it's just not the same because, you know, we all went through the same thing, but
Yeah.
because the military lifestyle and mentality, we didn't really talk about mental health. And so this kind of opens the door to say it's okay. And, you know, we all need to have this conversation, or we're going to continue to just, it's so sad because I've had two friends kill themselves, you know, because
Really.
they didn't feel like they had somebody to really talk to. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things where we'll continue dying off if we don't start talking about it together. So
Yeah. I think that's, yeah, I totally agree. So I really appreciate this. I appreciate what you're doing. And I love also like hearing and seeing all the people from Shape. It's very nice. So
yeah,
hope
yeah.
we all get to like meet up soon, and
Me
that'd be
too.
great.
Yes. All right, so so
All
great.
right.
I'm always here. If you need me, message me, and we can talk anytime.
Yeah. You too.
All
Thank
right.
you so much. Have a nice Sunday.
You too.
Okay.
Hey guys, thank you for tuning in for another episode on the Stories of the Dandelion podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please go and share it with a friend, a colleague, or even a family member. And make sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms so you can stay up to date on when the episodes are coming out and what is involved in each episode. Thank you again for tuning in, and I will see you all next Military Brat Monday.